the real reason the Wheel of Time got cancelled.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Randall Thor was tall, red-haired, and should have stuck out from the rest of his community like a sore thumb. The question is, why didn't he? What was it about the show's dynamics that made him unremarkable? And we had to pretend like we didn't know the Dragon Reborn was going to be him all along.
Stop pretending!
Did you notice the lack of emotional payoff with all the characters' romances? There's a good reason for that. Today in part 2, we'll explore the terminated show's diversity insanity, pointless promiscuity, and excessive alphabet representation. By the end of today's video, you'll understand why it's not your fault that you didn't feel any emotional or intellectual investment in the Wheel of Time series. Trust me, it's not us, it's them. Leave yourself room to get louder. Because I've sung in choirs for most of my life, I'm familiar with a musical concept called phrasing. It has to do with changing up tone, tempo, dynamics, articulation, and inflection. Boil it down, and phrasing simply means that your performance will be much more musical, and thus enjoyable, if you aren't singing the exact same way all the time. Just imagine your favorite song, but everything is forte, loud and overwhelming all the way through. It's no longer music, it's just a noisy racket.
Oh, it's bad. It's real bad.
Which brings us to the Wheel of Time series on Amazon Prime. Just like you need highs and lows to keep music interesting, the same is true when creating entertainment. You have to leave room for your fictional characters to grow as they experience all the ups and downs of adventure. If only the writers of the Wheel of Time had been aware of this concept, they might have made a series capable of real cultural impact, instead of the bland and forgettable product that was delivered to us. So strap on your oxygen masks and your goggles, because we're diving right into the deep end of this cesspool. Diversity to the point of insanity. Randall Thor was supposed to be unique in his village. While everyone else was brunette and average height, Rand was red-haired and unusually tall for someone raised in the Two Rivers. He stood out because of his differences. In Amazon Prime's TV show, however, we are shown a population that appears to be a hodgepodge of white, black, and Indian people. There may be more. Why was this a mistake? Well, let's see. For one, this instant diversity in the story robs Rand's character of his uniqueness. It's no longer important or interesting to find the answer as to why he looks so different from his community, because the entire community is so diverse that nobody has anything in common anyway. For two, the idea of a diverse Two Rivers community was ridiculous. They had been isolated in the mountains for centuries with little to no contact with the outside world. How diverse could they remain after intermarrying with each other for hundreds of years within a tiny population? It makes no sense, and was obviously a decision based on DEI politics, not proper story development, and it certainly wasn't true to the books.
Tell them the truth. Truth is in the eye of the beholder.
For three, when you march blindly towards ethnic diversity in a fantasy world and make it a staple of absolutely every community, there is no impact upon the main characters, nor us, when they go out and discover a world full of much more variety than they'd ever imagined. Our characters start out in a racially diverse village, and everywhere they go, it seems there's always a little bit of everything. No exciting new differences, no particularly unique cultures along the way. The result is an unending sameness that washes over us in every scene. Rand and company go to a new city, racially diverse. They go to defend the borderlands, diverse. They go to Falm and Tanchico, every color on the palette. Sure, a few outfits change, but it isn't enough to give us any real sense of the cultural identity of each nation, with perhaps the exception of the Shanchan. And the thing is, Robert Jordan's world, as found in his books, was already incredibly diverse. While given different names, all our real-world ethnicities are represented somewhere among the various fantasy nations. Andor was England, Terabon was Moorish Spain, Eredoman was Middle East Persian, Cairien was France, the Aiel were Native American, Altara was Renaissance Italy, Murindi was the medieval Balkan states, Farmading was Switzerland, Shinar was Japan, Arafel was Eastern European, Saldea was Mongolian, Shara was India, Shanchan Japan was Imperial China. Robert Jordan sometimes did a little mixing and made additions, but they were all there. And then, of course, just for fun, there's Ilion, where everyone talks like cartoon pirates, which I didn't recognize until later on into adulthood, and I realized how hilariously Robert Jordan had pulled that one over on all of us. The point is, our heroes are supposed to go out into the world and discover new and exciting people and cultures. We should feel a sense of wonder as they encounter variety during their travels, but we can't with the TV show because every nation is full of every ethnicity all the time. The White Tower was meant to be unique in this way because it was truly the international hub of the known world. We should be able to feel the amazement of our protagonists as they see people from every nation engaged in commerce in Tar Valon. It was supposed to be so cool. The Aes Sedai would definitely have been very diverse because they accepted women from everywhere. But again, same problem. Diversity was so ubiquitous in this show that Tar Valon society ended up looking average. To sum it all up, it's just like the thing you heard from your grade school teachers. If everything is highlighted, then nothing is highlighted. Pointless promiscuity. This is supposed to be a hero's journey. In the books, we have a small group of basically innocent young people, teenagers around 19 years old, from an isolated village up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. They know very little about the outside world, and while life in their community is full of hard work, they are tough, yet naive. This is because they are living in a very strict and conservative community. People in the Two Rivers did not just sleep around, they had wisdoms and women's circles that maintained a strict social decorum. In fact, the book stated that if any young couple in the Two Rivers was caught canoodling, they would get in big trouble and then be forced to marry right away. Why is this important? Because our main characters start out more or less innocent, and everything they experience on their hero's journey after they leave home is new and exciting. Without that pure beginning, none of their romantic relationships in the TV show meant anything. Oh sure, the writers of the show tried to get us interested, but honestly, all these love affairs ultimately landed flat. There was nothing distinctly Two Rivers about any of the main characters on this show, and the lack of a cohesive cultural identity made the Two Rivers people, as a whole, seem very unimpressive and bland. The enjoyment of the book journey comes while observing these naive kids go from being small village pure hearts to seasoned and toughened adults, shouldering burdens that they never expected to carry. And that fascinating progression extended to their romantic entanglements. So, Rand and Egwene sleeping together right from the get-go is annoying. The Two Rivers wasn't like that, and neither were these kids.
No. No way. No.
Why should we care about Rand's relationship with Egwene when they've pretty much gone as far as they could go? The only place left to go for these two is downhill. Why was Perrin already married? He's already gone as far as he could go too. No innocence there either. Now, Matt Cawthon was always going to be a wild card, and that was an intentional difference. He was always meant to be a carouser, and that should have made him distinct from the other members of the group. What was interesting about Matt was his inverse journey. He started out wild and bohemian, but little by little, he accepted responsibility for his relationships and shouldered the burdens of leadership. Now, what about Nynaeve? Nynaeve was the epitome of everything Two Rivers culture stood for. She was uptight, shrewd, no nonsense, tough, and stubborn. So no, she would not have jumped right into bed with Lan, and doing so made the slow, entertaining buildup of their relationship go flat, and it basically undermines and destroys her entire identity in the story. Goodbye delicious tension and curiosity about their future. Hello, sameness. Because this is done with all the characters, the viewers are left with little to be invested in on a human level, which sucks because for any good story, the romances should be some of the most compelling parts that get us emotionally invested. So, with nowhere left to go, what did the writers do to shake things up a bit?
Same thing we do every night, Pinky.
They tossed the script for the Wheel of Time onto the floor and spray painted a rainbow all over it. So gay it hurts. It should be stated now that Jordan's books were much cleaner than this show makes them out to be, and that's a good thing. This is supposed to be a fantasy story where we are exposed to new ideas like the Wheel of Time, the One Power, Aes Sedai, the breaking of the world, and the Dragon Reborn. But modern writers just can't seem to help themselves, and they insert their own politics and personal fantasies into every single TV adaptation. For example, Swan Sanche and Warren. It's not enough for these two powerful women to be lifelong friends who love and trust each other. No, in order for that to be believable, the writers decided to make them a lesbian couple.
On your knees. On your knees.
Which effectively cuts off the possibility of their future relationships with Gareth Bryn and Tom Marilyn from the books, which were fun and entertaining. So, to avoid dealing with this problem they created, the writers killed off Swan's character in Season 3, despite the reality that her absence would create a whole plethora of additional snags in the story. So, you see what I mean? Because they just felt compelled to make Swan gay, they later had to remove her character from the timeline entirely, which stinks because Swan was always an entertaining figure in the books. She was like Nynaeve, strong and fiery, yet caring, and hilarious when she would get in her own way because of her pride. It's sad, we should have been able to enjoy her antics for a long time to come. Alana and her two warders. The books never said that warders were sexually involved with each other. While some of the Green Aes Sedai had multiple warders, it was never implied that they ran around having orgies all the time.
That escalated quickly.
There were rumors that sometimes an Aes Sedai would marry her warder, but confirmed cases were very few and far between. Green Aes Sedai took multiple warders because they were the battle Aja, and odds of getting killed in battle were high. It wasn't because warders and Aes Sedai wanted to hook up every chance they got. Doing this for the TV series basically erodes any awareness of a distinct White Tower culture and makes the Aes Sedai seem common and frankly not special. You never get a sense of Tower life because everyone is doing whatever they want. Remember, the White Tower was a very exclusive group that abided by strict rules and policies, and it was necessary because they wielded great power, literally, and held influence in all the kingdoms. White Tower culture did all but forbid romance between Aes Sedai and warders. Aes Sedai were sworn to duty and political neutrality. Warders were bonded for protection, not pleasure. Aes Sedai who pursued romance with their warders risked a loss of reputation and political standing within the White Tower. Now for the Aiel. This is where you also have to be careful to get it right. This was a very different culture from the rest of the nations, but it was also very strict. While it's true that Aiel men could be married to multiple women, it did not mean that these sister wives were also lovers. This was not a thing in the books. These women held love and respect for each other, but it did not indicate a sexual relationship. They just shared the man. This problem is brought up again with Rand's, girlfriends, I guess you could call them. By the end of the story, Rand will be bonded to 3 women, Elaine, Avienda, and Min. Crazy? Yes. But again, there was a progression from the innocent sheep herder to this crazy powerful mover of nations, kind of like King David in the Old Testament. Humble beginnings, a rise to power, later on, multiple wives. Should Rand have done that? Is it morally wrong or just weird? Was it part of the pattern and something beyond any of their control? The books made it a topic for debate, but it was still regarded as highly unusual. And again, it's not enough that Robert Jordan took it that far, which is weird enough by most people's standards. No, the writers decided that now each of these women must be romantically involved with each other too. In Season 3, Elaine and Avienda flirt and end up hooking up, and I'm sure Min's character would have followed suit in Season 4.
No! Please, no! No!
If the show hadn't been cancelled. Why does it need to be this way? No idea. I guess when you throw one important traditional value out the window, you begin that slide down the slippery slope until you don't particularly care for any morals or codes of conduct after a while. And with all the lady stuff we've seen in this show, I'm actually surprised they didn't gay up the main male characters more. But even as I think that, I remember that, yes indeed, they have gay baited the audience with Rand a couple of times. Remember the dark friend bartender in the mining town who implied that Rand and Matt were a couple? And then later, Ishamael shows up in a dream in Rand's bed, nearly stroking his face before he realizes that it is a creation by Lanfear. So it seems like more than one of the Forsaken have been fantasizing about the pouty lips dragon reborn. Yup, Ishamael definitely had a gay predilection going on, which we can observe as he tenderly holds Matt after drugging him. So, just like a singer who starts off singing at double forte, this show started loud and it vainly keeps trying to out-scream itself. No nuance, no phrasing. They made everything as outrageous as possible right from the beginning, and then there was nowhere left for them to go. Thus, it ended up as noise. And everybody in the audience tuned it out, so it's no wonder to me that we won't be getting a season 4. Honestly, I'm surprised that Prime Video kept it going this long when you've already made every town and nation as diverse as possible, and the main characters are already sleeping around with everybody, and you've exploited just about every kind of alternative sexual profligacy. There's really nowhere else to go but down. Without a quiet, pure beginning, we miss out on the emotional and intellectual development of the main characters. It's no longer a meaningful journey, it's just a bunch of stuff that happens. The more I think about it, the more I realize this show is just a fan fiction rather than a serious creative project meant to bring a cool fantasy world to life. The problem with the Wheel of Time series is the same as the problem with the Rings of Power. Shallow writers with no genuine personal morality trying to insert their politics and preferences into a complex work of fiction made by men of far superior intelligence and creativity. Men who understood and accepted the basics of good versus evil. Men who had clear ideas of what they wanted in their invented worlds. Our modern writers like to pretend like they have the life experience and understanding and virtue of their predecessors, and yet, despite their efforts, we see through their interpretation of the source material on screen, which exposes them as the shallow, self-serving, accusatory, amoral, and stunted trollocs that they really are. I mean, what else can we expect? People can only write what they know.